Good morning. Thank you for having us. Thank you for letting us the opportunity to tell you our stories. My name is Eran San, and I'll be interning at Congressman Jamie Raskin's office. I'm an Israeli peace activist. For the past 3 years, I've been working for an Israeli NGO called Peace Now, advocating for the two-state solution. I was born in January 1991, right in the middle of the first Gulf War, during which Saddam Hussein fired tens of rockets into Israeli cities. My parents tell me that the first week of my life was spent in bomb shelters. When I was 9, the Second Intifada, meaning the Palestinian uprising against the Israeli occupation, broke out. And I remember that my parents not allowing me to go out with my friends because bombs were going off in public buses and restaurants. When I was 12, the US invaded Iraq, and I remember going to school with my backpack and my notebooks and a gas mask because, again, Saddam Hussein threatened to use chemical weapons against Israel. When I was 18, I was drafted into the Israeli army, and I served for 4 years as a combat soldier in the Israeli Special Forces. I served in the K9 unit. I had my own personal dog. Her name is Gigi, and she was a bomb detection dog. And together we carried out hundreds of missions in the West Bank and in Gaza. Mohammed told you about his experience in the middle of the night, hearing the Israeli soldiers banging on the door. Well, I was that soldier on the other side of the door dozens of times. I experienced combat firsthand, and during my military service, something broke inside of me. It started with a crack, and it got wider and deeper. And I can't pinpoint the exact moment, but I remember that they took us to this ceremony, this service on Memorial Day. That's the day where we remember all of the fallen soldiers. And I remember standing there, surrounded by hundreds of kids in uniforms, including myself. And we're watching this monument with hundreds of names of dead kids in uniforms who died in wars. And I realized that my generation was born during war, grew up during war, and experienced war after war after war. I realized that I was 22, and I participated in way too many funerals of people younger than me, people who lost their lives because of this conflict. So when I left the Israeli army, I decided to dedicate my life to end this conflict. I started volunteering for Peace Now, and then I was hired, and I worked there for a couple of years, focusing on talking to young people, mainly teenagers and students. I believe that a conflict that we pass on to our children is a conflict that we lost. And the Israeli-Palestinian conflict was the soundtrack of my generation's life. And I think that it's our responsibility making sure that it won't be the next generation's soundtrack as well. In Peace Now, we're trying to advocate to change the mindset of people. Try to turn them over from being in this approach to the conflict that is mutually exclusive of being pro-Israel or pro-Palestine, and try to convince them that, above all, to be pro-solution. I thank you for having us today. I thank you for listening to our stories, and I think that we'll be happy to hear any questions you have. You can ask personal questions. I'm sure all of us are ready to answer whatever you want. We're here to share our stories and to share our perspectives. Thank you for having us.